All right, let's talk about Jordan Morgan, interesting player for the Green Bay Packers. They drafted him in the first round. Many people thought he was more of a second round talent. So let's get into it and talk about who's right here in this situation. I'm going to start off with some negatives because there were some things that I didn't love about Jordan Morgan's game that I do think he's going to have to clean up on. For example, something like this, what you see on the screen is currently a one-on-one matchup, and watch what happens. Right when it begins, you're going to see the edge rusher is going to go for more of an outside move. This is what you would see a lot against Jordan Morgan, is guys would try to go around him. He did a pretty good job of getting his hand placement, over in position. But when you try to get to this point, okay, for Morgan, what do? He's trying to get the edge rusher pushed behind his quarterback. That's his goal here. However, here he honestly barely even shoves him, and quarterback is able to step up in the pocket and make it work, but still not an ideal play from Jordan Morgan. I think that's fair to say. We would see this happen a lot, which is weird because he's someone who really does do a good job at moving laterally. So I do wonder if there's a coaching thing here, and I think that's the case with a lot of the issues I have. Is I do wonder how much of it is just a thing you can coach up versus a thing that he's just not good at. Like this play's another one where it's going to be, again, a one-on-one matchup here, and watch what happens. So this play begins. You see that the pass rusher, is not looks like he's trying to go for more of a bull rush move right here, but is going to decide to go for an inside move instead. And again, you would kind of see this sometimes where when a guy would just try for a bull rush, he would usually be okay. But like in this situation, watch the edge rusher kind of push Morgan to the side, and he is able to get towards the quarterback for a sack. So again, going with that more inside move worked out really well, and did not work out too well for Jordan Morgan. So another example of not an ideal play, I would say, for Morgan. And again, these were things that I noticed is when guys would try moves like this, it would often work. And then he just had some wins that weren't like ideal wins, like something like this, for example. It's again, a one-on-one matchup, and like I said, it's going to be a win. Watch what happens when this play just begins. You're going to see the defender's going right at Morgan right here. No outside move, no inside move, not trying anything creative here. Just going to try and overpower Morgan because there is a halfback who's blocking, he's chipping on this play. So, as I said, this is going to be a win, but watch what happens. Watch Morgan really get driven back a bit there, which did kind of close the pocket. It's a win. You'll take this. If these are your losses, it's not the end of the world. I'm not mad at it or anything like that. But just, I think sometimes you like it that when your wins to look a little bit more dominant. And that being said, there were absolutely times when that's what happened. I want to go over here now, and while I still think that everything I said is a very fair point to bring up, I also think it's fair to bring up with Morgan that I would not call him a bad player, and I would not say everything that every mistake I showed you, like he consistently screws those things up. It's more of a consistency thing. He's inconsistent at it, because like this play, one-on-one matchup, watch how you see the defensive lineman trying to get over and see if he can get towards the outside. But this is, I think, probably why Jordan Morgan was drafted in the first round. This is his selling point, is his lateral movement. And you see right here, doing a really good job at getting over and getting in position to, prevent a speed rush. As you see, there's really nothing that defensive lineman can do because Morgan got over there so quickly. And this is the optimism. And so, while I certainly would see him sometimes get beat on speed rushes, I almost wonder if it was a bit of he's an athletic enough guy. He usually felt like he had the ability to, come back and didn't have to overextend himself in that area. And I wonder if now that he's in the NFL, going up against tougher guys, in a weird way, it could almost make it easier for him because now he just knows he has to get over. Like when he sees that kind of move, you have to get over. Maybe it could cause him to get, be more susceptible to get beat on the inside, but there's ways you can coach it up for sure. But also something like this, I want to talk about his hands now, because hands are something I tend to really talk a lot when it comes to offensive linemen, and for a good reason, right? If you have good hands, you're a good offensive lineman. As long as you have the physical tools to work in the NFL level, it's going to come. What separates the fringe NFL players from the great NFL players is usually technique. It's usually hands, and I really like Jordan Morgan's hands. Like this play is an example of it. Where right when this play begins, you're going to see that right here. I mean, you look at how he gets his arms extended right there to the point where for that defensive lineman, there is not a lot he can do. I mean, what do you want to do at this point? He's going to try for an inside move, but to pull that off, you're going to have to get Morgan's right hand out of position, and where it's at right now, that is not going to be an easy feat. As you see, Morgan does, hold on and then also knows when to let go to avoid the flag. So, legal play, all that good stuff. Really well done by Morgan. Again, you watch Morgan's best plays and you're wondering why he wasn't considered a top 10 pick. It's true. Like, it's a consistency thing for him, which, I think about Jordan Love. His whole issue was inconsistency. The Packers said, let's take a chance on him, and it worked out. Quay Walker, another guy, his issue was inconsistency. People didn't think he should have been a first rounder. They said, we think we can get the consistency down. Of course, it doesn't work with every prospect. Some inconsistent prospects in college are inconsistent NFL players, and we'll see what happens. But like this play is another one where, the way this is going to work is, once again, a one-on-one matchup, which, again, is kind of promising that they did give him one-on-one matchups pretty frequently. Obviously, you would hope that if you're an NFL player, in college, you're going to get a lot of one-on-one matchups, but it doesn't always happen that way, so that is certainly promising. You see how 46 here, the edge rusher, he's going to, move forward and maybe try back Morgan a tad, but really Morgan's with him this whole way, and there's not really much movement either backwards. I mean, really, Morgan is doing a great job at sealing off this block. And again, for 46, really nothing he can do. At no point was going to get to the quarterback. Again, that lateral movement is legitimately great, and it's one of those things that you kind of can't teach. So I understand why the Packers like him, and I think this is probably their favorite attribute about him. It's certainly my favorite attribute about him. So yeah, I mean, listen, I do think that for someone like Jordan Morgan, you look at his more advanced stats, they're not elite, they're not, but his pass blocking's pretty good. It's definitely quality and better than some other first-round picks that were selected. Run blocking has a bit more of an issue, and I didn't really talk too much about the run blocking because, let's be honest, they're drafting him to be a pass blocker, I would assume. I'm also just a little bit curious as to what the fit is here. I'm assuming he's going to play tackle and you have Jenkins play guard, right? That's the move right here, I guess. So, I'm interested in seeing how some of that stuff works as well. But, again, there are real good traits with him. Yes, he's a bit more of a developmental guy than some other players, but you're at the point when you're picking back half, towards the end of the first round, where you kind of have to either choose, are we going to get a guy who's maybe doesn't have a high ceiling, or are we going to get a guy who maybe has a lower floor? And they decided to go with the guy who has a lower floor, which is something that they have done. And like I said, it hasn't always worked out. I think Eric Stokes was very much that same mindset. Let's get a guy who has real physical traits. And so far, Stokes is still young. Maybe he could turn it around. But so far, and he's had injuries, but it hasn't really worked out with Stokes up until this point, right? I think that's fair to say. Whereas for someone like Morgan, maybe it could work out. I brought up the other players that did work out. So there's certainly reason to believe some players can turn around and make things work. But yeah, as a whole, I don't know. It's not my favorite pick. It isn't. I'll say that. But I don't think it's a horrendous pick. It's the thing where it's like, we always say, oh, this pick is what a disaster. But at the end of the day, we don't know. We're just speculating based on potential. And these teams, have a lot more resources at their disposal to research this stuff. So I'm sure he's going to end up, he's a good prospect that if I had to bet on if he'll succeed or not, I'm going to bet on him succeeding. So if you want to say they could have gotten a better player, we can have that discussion. But I think they got a good prospect in Morgan. That's how I view all this. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.